A very warm welcome, everyone. Very good afternoon at Public Sector Industry Day today. We have along with us at the fireside session today Dr. Ashish Kumar Srivastav, who is the Additional Secretary IT, Department of Information Technology, Government of Uttarakhand, and Mr. Aman Thareja, who is the Director Commercial Sales of VMware. A little bit about the event today. As digitalization continues to surge in the country, the past 2 years has seen a decade of worth of transformation in the government and the public sector. However, the rapid shift to digital has led a rise in the cyber threat and has many systems vulnerable to data leaks. Amidst this, cloud has emerged as an effective solution to optimize operations and secure data. However, managing operations and scaling productivity in a multi-cloud environment can be challenging. Thus, in answer to this, Elets Technomedia with VMware is coming up with Public Sector Industry Day, a webinar which is right now we are just going to see it, a webinar on optimizing multi-cloud operations and data security in government and PSUs. I welcome both our speakers today, and if we could please show them on the screen, Dr. Ashish and Mr. Aman. Welcome to our keynote session, sir. And if you could kindly switch on the camera, then our viewers can see you. If you could kindly have our chief guest along with us, Dr. Ashish K. Srivastav, sir. And welcome, Mr. Aman and Dr. Ashish. And I leave the dais to you. You can please continue with the session.
Thank you, Pooja, and thank you, Dr. Ashish, for giving us time today. So I'll request Ashish sir to start with his keynote address, and thereafter the session can follow. Over to Dr. Ashish.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Mishra, members from Elets, and Mr. Aman and the audience today present. So it's a very important aspect which I am going to discuss here is like the role of government in technology, the e-governance, and what the private sector can be able to help the government for better public service delivery. So in this case, I just want to start with the quote of Honorable Honorable Prime Minister of the India, and he quoted about the e-governance, like the how you will define e-governance, and the e-governance is basically in his work. Words I quote: "It is easy, economic, and effective governance." So that is very important to have a easy way of governance and the effective way of governance, and which should be cost effective also. So the technology is a better solution in governance to come up with different innovative ways to reach to the public, because it is not possible to reach to each and every household by the government manually. So technology is a better solution, and many of the state governments and the central government is taking initiatives. I am just going to discuss something about what state of Uttarakhand is doing, because the e-governance is even more important for a state like Uttarakhand, where the accessibility is a very important issue because of the topography of the state, and because of the sparse population in the state, mainly in the hilly areas. So most important thing for the government to do for technology is to break the status quo, because most of the time we think that the way we are working or the way the service delivery is done should not be changed very drastically, so that the transition should be easy. But I just want to say one thing is the time is changing very fast, and the aspiration of people, aspiration of citizens are also changing very fast. They are demanding too many services at their doorstep without any issue in assessing those services. So the government and the private sector and every stakeholder has to be very ready about the to meet the aspiration of people. So the very important issue for e-governance is to break the status quo. And another very important aspect which I just want to mention here is the inclusiveness of the technology, because most of the time we listen that there is a very clear cut technological divide. There is one tech savvy India and another is not that much tech savvy. So that is very important, how to bridge that gap, because if you want to do e-governance, if you want that the e-governance should be effective, then it is very important to deal with two important issues. One is to break the status quo of the stakeholders from the government side or from the other service provider, and another important issue is to make the technology inclusive so that everybody can be able to use it. So most of the time what happens when we make any e-governance platform or any e-governance tool, then we think the way what we are deciding is actually the best way to do it, and we generally forget about the person who is actually going to be the end user. And therefore it is, I as I have told earlier, that the technology should be easy, because the process should be easy, so that anybody who is little bit digitally literate can be able to use it. And the technology should be cost effective also, because ultimately whatever is coming is coming from the government exchequer, the public exchequer. So that is important. And another very important issue is the accessibility, like everybody will be able to use it, irrespective of the place where he or she is, irrespective of the gender, and irrespective of the age. So that is very important, and irrespective of any specific issues, like if he is not able to see or she is not able to see, not able to hear, so all those things can be addressed in this aspect. So, and what we did in Uttarakhand, when we started our e-governance initiative, I think Uttarakhand was one of the pilot state which started e-district, and that e-district was started way back in 2011-12. So after that, yeah, the process was going on, but most in due course of time, lot of technology has been have been changed and upgraded. So we this year you can say now last year in November we started apni sarkar initiative of the state, and that is actually meant for the e-governance initiative, the public service delivery as decided by the citizen charter. So all the services in the citizen charter should reach to public at their doorstep. So that we decided, because there was the issues what I have discussed is the accessibility, the digital divide, and everything we addressed it. So we decided that those who are digitally literate should be given option to access the services from their home or anywhere at any time. You can access those services through your personal login, and once you are doing that personal login, so you can also get certificate in your personal login only. So it is completely faceless and end-to-end service delivery portal. And another thing is that those who are not that much digitally literate, so the services shall be given through common service centers or the e-district centers available at district headquarters, tehsil headquarters, block headquarters. So we decided to do all those things in a way that it should be inclusive and it should address everybody. So all those major services are now you can avail from anywhere through your personal login. And you can, earlier there was an issue like if your certificate is lost, then you have to file an FIR, and then you have to come to the government again, and then you have to again apply for the second copy, and that was also a cumbersome process. So that thing is also dealt with, like in your, if the certificates are, the government certificates are in your login, so that you can actually download it, and anytime and n number of times you can download it. Another thing is that once you are applying for any service, then your certificate is also verified from the particular office from where the certificate is issued. So that is also given actually discussed, and that was taking almost 6 months, 7 months time for getting a certificate verified. So now on the website you go, and just you can enter the certificate number, and you will get the information whether the certificate is legal or not. So all those things, like to ease the life of citizens, the state has started this. Now the state has also done many things, like our entire cabinet is on now on e-cabinet. So it is totally paperless cabinet what our state is doing. So it is one of the pioneer state who has done this. And the e-office is everywhere now. The entire secretariat and the offices are now becoming paperless. So all those things, now I just want to sum up with one thing is that due to the pandemic, the COVID, what we are facing right now since last 2 years, more than 2 years, more precisely. So it's like that has actually changed too much mindset. Now this is a very easy time, so that though the first problem can be addressed very easily, like the status quo. So now everybody knows that technology is the answer of this problem. So I think that this is a very high time for all e-governance initiative, the technology, and for all the stakeholders to come together and digitize most of the services. And the ultimate target is to increase the status of the life of common man. So that is very important to do it technologically. And now the technology has proven very important role in social sector. So like health, education. So right now I am also looking after medical education department of the state. So where there we are using lot of technology, how to improve the the training of students, and how to train the, how to do capacity building of the faculty also. And the most important thing is health and education, where technology can play very important role. And I request all the stakeholders, and since I was also there in smart city, so most of you have already worked with us in Dehradun smart city. So we request that this is a very high time to come up with a good technology which is easy, economic, and effective, so that the government can transform the life of common citizens. That's from my side. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish, for summarizing your experiences, your approach, and how the state has been focusing on providing citizen services and keeping the citizen in the center and making a very inclusive approach. And I know there's a lot of work, a lot of efforts which go behind achieving all this. It's easier said than done. And we are very proud that you are at the helm of the affairs at Uttarakhand state, and not only the citizen service. I was pleased to hear that you have adopted a paperless office as well in the state, and these efforts will surely help the generations to come, and they can improve things from there. And of course, we do remember you from your days when you were the CEO of the smart city, and you got that project also kicked off. So I think one great point, sir, which you brought in the center of this whole thing was how technology to kind of bring benefits to the citizens. And I just have one follow-up question, and after that we'll let the kind of session open up. how do you see modernization of data centers in this whole vision and journey which you are on, and what's your top of mind on that?
Yeah. So, like, it's a very important question and very pertinent questions once you go digital. So, like, you will generate lot of data, and the data security is very important issue. So, like, most of the states are now having their own state data center. Uttarakhand is no exception. Uttarakhand is also having its own state data center. And I think you were a part of that data center when we started this. So that is very important. Now there is also some question like to go on cloud, to have it is physically in your environment. So whatever it is,
Right.
what the organization decide, but most important thing is to state have its own state data center policy. So like how you will host data, how you will protect data, and how will you use that data for the betterment of public. Now once you are using data for a more effective citizen service, so that is equally very important, the privacy issue. So all those things are there. So government of Uttarakhand has approved its own state data center policy in January. So now we have our own state data center policy, how we host data, how one can use data, how can you assess data. So all those things are there, and that is very important issue, because the next generation of reforms are data driven decision making in the government. So I think that is very important issue, that one should be equipped from today only to have that, because I think I see it very soon. Right now the government is digitizing most of the services, online the most of the services, and they're using technology. So the next thing will definitely be the data driven governance, how to use that data. So it's very important issue.
Thank you, Dr. Ashish. So, today, like at VMware, we spent almost about 25 years as a company which is trying to provide technology to make this data availability to people, how to host data, how to secure data, how to automate and orchestrate. So, I think we have a panel of smart people who are going to run through some of the solutions today, and to share what new things are coming on this. And I think the audience will be pretty enriched, and everybody's feeling excited about hearing what you have done in a state like Uttarakhand. Because otherwise, if you think, I mean, it's a very hilly area with difficult geographical terrain, connectivity would be difficult. But thanks to all of you that so many great services are already online with the citizens, and we look forward to your contributions to the country. And of course, as VMware, we are always behind. With this, I think a big thank you to you for giving the keynote and opening this session. I'll hand over back to Pooja and Mr. Mishra to introduce the other panelists and to take the session further. Thank you.
Thank you.
So requesting Pooja to come in to take the session further.
Yes, so we would also like to invite our Tech Talks session right now. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashish Kumar Srivastav and Mr. Aman Thareja, to open up the fireside session today. And right now, we would like to also invite Vivek Sharma ji, who is the Senior Sales Specialist, Cloud Management, VMware, and also Mr. Amit Kumar, who is the Senior Systems Engineer, Cloud Management, VMware. I would request both of you to please, if you could join for our presentation right now. I welcome Vivek ji and Amit ji for to take the session further. If you could please continue with the session.
Yeah, thanks, Pooja. Can you hear me first of all, and can you see me?
Yes, yes,
And the content is also visible.
yes, yes.
Okay, we are good. Everyone is able to hear me. So thank you very much and good afternoon, everyone. Once again, a warm welcome. And first of all, I want to thank Dr. Ashish and Aman for taking us and giving us a first stand about the digitalization and then what Mr. Ashish and Dr. Ashish has done in Uttarakhand, and for the citizenship also what we have seen, what we heard from him. The couple of things which I take from his pointers, which he was discussing, the technology, which is the first thing which he was talking about it. So today's sessions, the next 1 hour, where I will try to take for you some of the initiatives, taken by the government of India, and how it is relevant to the VMware products, and then how we can offer a solution aligning with the government of India's initiatives. In the next sessions, Amit will help us to realize that products in the realities by showing the demos of that. So that's what we will split the session into two parts. Moving ahead with the session, hope my slides are visible again. Okay, so what I want to talk about it, I think, and the one note which Dr. Ashish was talking about is the technology. I'll take that from him, and I will talk the same thing. The technology is the key imperative, which is required for boosting the digital India. And I think the couple of quotes which is taken from the Honorable Mr. Prime Minister from Narendra Modi, which is, I think we can see here about it. The technology is the one which is basically the use of a technology, and the value of the technology brings events to the public cloud services, and also eventually helps to do the social empowerment. And I think if you will see the vision which was set by the Digital India, and aligning with completely, providing digital infrastructures to the core and the core utility to the citizen of India, and at the same time, ensuring the governance and services are on demand provided to the government of India and the citizens, and aligning bodies to access and consume as they need. And then lastly, what we actually want to achieve is that, how do we empower our citizens? So I think the right set vision and right set imperatives for the digital India move in the technology perspectives. So let's look into it. What are the segments and what are the governments and agency which we see, which is a part of our digital initiatives? If you look my slide here, you would see more or less every other PSU is basically part of the digital India, empowerment right now. You would see from states and governments, a lot of programs are part of it. And if I want to highlight that couple of initiatives, and I think the pillars, the 9 pillars, which is identified the government of India, which on the right hand side, the prominently which we heard from Dr. Ashish about the e-governance, I think, and he and his team is working too much on the e-governance part of it to bringing to the citizens of Uttarakhand. Similarly, there are multiple other pillars of this transformation which we see here, is that e-Kranti, universal access to mobile connectivity, public internet access programs, and multiple of such pillars are actually there in digital India. And these are the pillars which basically driving multiple initiatives which we saw and which we heard from Dr. Ashish, the e-sign, the smart cities where he worked about it, the DigiLocker, the Skill India. There are multiple such initiatives are actually part of it. And under these initiatives also, you would see a lot of services are also offered, such like e-panchayat, e-hospitals, e-pathshala, digital aims for hospitality management. So what we understand is that, everything what we're talking about it, all these initiatives which under the digital initiatives we are taking it, it is all driven more or less from the technology. The technology has empowered these all initiatives to take it to the each state, each cities, each rural village, and then empowering the social people. Now, I want to give it a different perspective now from here. What we are talking is that all these perspectives which we heard about it, digitalizing the digital initiatives which we have got it all requires a transformation, obviously, and a technology transformation. Now, this all starts from state data centers, which we heard from Dr. Ashish also. The state data centers are getting empowered right now because the kind of support they need to provide to the ecosystem, the applications which under the digital initiatives we are launching. Now, if you look at the first thing which we do it to transform our data centers, we basically adopt the cloud. And over here, when you see the cloud adoptions is in a multiple way we can do it to make it simplify for the team, to make it simplify for everyone. I think you see that there is the options of going and getting into the government community clouds, which is obviously METI impaneled and which we can be consumed. The other one is a private cloud, which is in a more or less you would see across the industry right now, across the government departments, because we heard from Dr. Ashish also there are a lot of concerns from a sovereignty perspective and all when people go for the public cloud. So more or less, the private cloud is the one thing which we have seen as a choice of from a best of the breed, which we have seen. And the third one is the public cloud, where you would basically see the public cloud from the AWS, Azure, and the Google are available in the country right now. So so today's topic, and I would try to limit myself to the private cloud, which is our topic to talk about how we help our customers, how we help the government of India, and across the states, across the PSUs, across the central, to launch their services on the private cloud. So the first thing which I want to talk about it, any IT which we are talking about, which is basically is the main empowering for these all digital initiatives, has in a multiple stages, to offer the solutions and services. So starting with a project onboarding, I think the first thing which is important, how fast you can bring your infrastructure, which is basically your compute, storage, network, everything, how fast you can bring them, onboard them, and then start consuming them, by providing the resources to the right teams, right government agencies, right bodies of government. How fast you can do that. That is the first thing which we do it. And that is where we have reduced a lot of time of months to the weeks. Now we have got it down so that the provisioning of these workloads, these virtual machines which is hosting these digital initiatives applications, is reached to the market faster. After that, what we have seen is that in these data centers, once you have these digital initiatives launched and people are accessing it, it has now become an essential for us to ensure that they are all managed and maintained properly. For that, you would need to ensure that the provisioning, day one part of it and day two part of it, which is an operation part of it, is also aligned with it. Now, what does that mean is that when you have all this data, when you have all these applications, you want to ensure a lot of services. Like, if you want to take a backup for these components, how do you initiate the backups? Now, you would basically have to go through a complete process of different backup softwares, OEMs. Now, what we can do is that we can integrate that as in a workflow, as an automation. As a click, you can go and you can just initiate a backup of your workloads, your applications, your databases, and that is where this becomes services. And these services eventually, as a data centers, you can give it to your end user also. You can give it to the peoples of the ministries also, so they can initiate that. And similar line like this way, we can do a lot of other services which we can bring it to the automation. As you see here, the firewall, the DR is the services. I think these are very critical ones. When you see geographically, there are sometimes, we need to make sure that our data is safe, our data is put it into the different locations. How do you initiate all these things as automated? Because the manual things would take time, manual things will have a misconfiguration issues and might raise in issues like where you cannot get back your data. And hence, DR as a services, which is again an automated process, can bring the data, or can bring the complete data centers as the way it was running in your data centers. And I would say that the acts as a services. I think this is something which is given in a name by the Gartners also. And the Gartner is an agency from the market, which is a prominent agency, keeps on coming with this kind of suggestions, whether for the government, for the commercials. I think they have given this suggestion to the government of US, government of Europe, talking about bringing anything as a service. I think that is what eventually what we're looking in a government perspective. Whatever the things, whatever the services we are launching today, it should be provided as a services. Correct. So this is what the first part of it. What I wanted to give a messaging here is that the private cloud which we choose here, which is empowered by VMware, is helping all the digital initiatives which you are running. It's helping basically to set in a stage for that, to create the infrastructures the way you want, and provide that the way, the fastest the way you want to have it. In the same context, I want to give one perspective about how many of these data centers which we have empowered across. I mean, these are a few list of our customers, I think, but there are many more in the government segments. Whether we talk about the PSUs, we talk about the states, we talk about central, everywhere we have seen private cloud has been consumed by all these bodies and ministries and finance ministries and all that. So one typical example I want to talk about the National Information Centers, NIC. I think we all know about it. It is providing a lot of services to a lot of ministries, and the Meghra is the cloud basically, which is actually powered by the VMware. And similar line, if you see other agency in the states like RISL, the DOIT from Rajasthan. If I talk about the PSUs, NTPC, Power Grid, Indian Oil, all of them are actually right now powered by the VMware automation, and they have seen in the values We have a couple of case studies published publicly also, which you can go and access, and you can see how we have helped our ministries and our bodies to eventually offer services to the citizens of India. Now I change my gear and I will talk completely on the technology part of it, which all the use cases which we see across government, and then which all the use cases which we can cater to the government agencies. So here you look at these are the modern automation use cases which we have seen commonly used and consumed. I will talk about them very quickly. The 5 of them which we have identified, which we have seen with our government bodies in the data centers, which they want to adopt to provide all these facilities. The first one is the governance compliance, and I think we all understand this part of it. When you are serving to the citizens, you would also want to ensure that it is whatever you are offering, whatever that your data center consists of, obviously compute, storage, network, and applications and database, is all aligned with the government policies and also with respect to the compliances. Now that can be done using an automations with the way we do it. I mean, obviously, the manual processes can cause some concerns. Can cause taken a different route of provisionings and all these things. However, in automation, we can create policies, defined policies, standard policies, which can be used to ensure that whatever that you are provisioning, it is all it's in line of the governments and compliances. And the second is then whatever you do as it changes, it should be auditable also. Whatever the changes you're making to the systems, it should be visible. The second one, which is a remediations and config patching, I think this is again a very critical part of it. And I want to give an example of it. Like if you have 100 of the VMs, 100 of the virtual machines or workloads, and you want to make any changes to these machines because of some concerns which is raised in the application, or because there's an issue with the operating systems, and you want to immediately take actions to remove the particular applications, or you want to take an action to install some applications for security perspectives, how are you going to do it in an environment like such large? And if you have to take as a manual steps, I think it will take days and months kind of time to do that. So whereas the requirement today is that you need to ensure that that particular application is patched or application is configured at the same moment, because it concerns a lot of security issues. So that is the one use case which we have seen. The third one is that and I was talking as initially the applications and the initiatives which government brings it to to the citizen, how fast you can bring it that. Now when we talk about these things, application and databases are the primarily one thing which is faced to the customer or an end user. But if you see in the back end, there are a lot of constructs and components which is required to manage that. You would need to have a server, you need to have a storage, you need to have a network. All of them is provision. I think if you want to align an automation perspectives, then is the only way we can provision them faster. So that's the first important part of it. The other is that I think we have seen, these stacks which we have seen today are multiple times you basically use and then you provide to the multiple different states and governments, so they can consume these things as the way it is developed by the master images. So in that case also we can obviously create in a master blueprints which can be consumed and accessed on VMware platform, or if you consume in any public cloud, it can go and it can move there also without making any changes. So that is the power it gives you. You can have a complete app stack prepared by you, can be moved whether in the private cloud or whether you use and consume public clouds. The fourth one is, I think, when you have all these applications deployed, when they are working and they're serving the end users, it is now important to make sure that these are running fine, whatever the SLAs are there, which are maintained right now. And in case of any issues comes or arises, you can troubleshoot the issue faster and bring the SLAs up, and that is the important part of it. And the fifth one is that we have seen a lot of ministries right now talking about developers also. There are developers sits over there, they works. So we have got a solution like an infrastructure as a code, where basically we empower the developers, where they can just provision infrastructure also at the same time when the code for the applications. Whenever they are making any changes to the applications to make the applications and features available to the market, at the same time, they can take the resources, the CPU, the memory, the compute, as the way they need in their development cycle. So these are the 5 use cases which I talked about it. Now I'll go deeper into the part what solution VMware is providing our customers right now. So in a nutshell, I would talk about the cloud management platform. I think this is the first thing which consists of the multiple layers. The first layer which you would see here is that you have a data centers, and as we heard about the state data centers is one of the things which we see in departments. Apart from that, there are places we have seen that there are colo things which we use, and eventually we have seen multiple interactions with the public cloud also. So what we are seeing is that if anybody has got a requirement such where they've got their data centers, they've got their colo locations, they've got even public cloud also, we can go and create a consistent cloud management platform for such environments. Now, it could be a building block, a data center could be a building block, and then eventually you can move on and you can add up a public cloud. Now, these infrastructures basically consist of your compute, storage, and networks. These are the three major pillars of any data centers. So on top of that, basically you then basis on your application requirement, you create a VMs or you create a containers. And that is where the first thing and the first test we take it up. We provide a consistent infrastructures by creating all of these things in a software-defined data centers moment. Now, whatever you see today here, compute virtualization, storage virtualization, and network virtualization is available by VMware in a format like in a vCloud Foundation, where we allow our customers to use all these things together in conjunction with integrations so that you can consume these services, and on top of that you can load your workloads such like containers or VMs. Once you have these things, what is the critical for any agency is that when you have these things in a massive in size, like you have to create the workloads and VMs like in thousands or 10,000s, how do you basically manage the provisioning part of it? And hence we create something similar like public cloud, which you see as a self-service portal, and a portal where you can go and consume and ask for the resources. Just like you ask, like, I want a particular VM for my application with the size of 4 CPU, 8 GB RAM, or something like a disk which you want to have it. And eventually you can also add in a policies and governance with that. What that means is that if there is multiple agencies, multiple bodies are part of an approval process, you can add up that process in the policies and governance. So whenever somebody asks for some resources, it will go to the approval process, and then once it is approved by all the departments, then the VM will be provisioned. With this process, actually, we have reduced the cycle of provisioning from weeks to months to now only days, or then hours also we have seen in many cases. That's a automation and config management part of it. On top of that, you would see that the operations part of it. What it is now is that when you have provisioned your workloads in your VMs, now it is responsibility to make sure that these all constructs of these data centers are working fine. For that, we need to have an eagle eye. We need to have an end-to-end management of this. So you see here is the self-driving operations, where basically we can go and get into what is happening in your compute, what is happening in your storage, what is happening in your network, and that all visibility we bring into the table, and hence it helps the complete data center team, the operation teams, to resolve and provide any consistent operations. With that, I'm moving to the next slide, which is more talking about the operations part of it. And I think it becomes an essentials, when from an inception of a VMware, I think I want to talk about this. When there was no virtualization, I think we had thousands of physical servers. On top of that, we have thousands of workload in terms of applications and databases hosted in data centers. Now, what happened is that when the virtualization came into the picture, these thousands of physical servers has reduced to the hundred of servers, physical servers. But on top of that, you started creating thousands or more than that VMs on top of that. Your workloads and your applications started getting and converting into a VMs. Now, these 100 physical servers are hosting more than 2,000, 3,000 of virtual machines. It becomes very critical that you have some sort of operations, and that too also self-driving operations to manage these infrastructures, to manage your applications. The whole perspective is that how do you ensure the performance optimization of your applications on a daily basis? And then eventually, once you have done that, it is all about it now. How do you optimize your capacities also? Now, what does that mean is that if you have given some resources to the applications or the VMs, if it is not been used, or it has been overused, how do you basically, or if it is underused, how do you basically get back the resources and bring it to the physical pool? And that is what all about the efficient capacity and cost management, where you basically go reclaim the unused resources, reclaim some idle resources, and bring it to the physical pool so that it can be used for some other project. And the third one is the app-aware intelligent remediations. I think this is when you want to make sure that your applications are run all the time 24/7. You want to ensure that your databases are also up and running, so that your environment is up and running. What basically happens that, because these are the two components which is seen by the application, which is consumed by the applications, but backend there is a compute storage network. As I said, we basically go and do a topology mapping, and we try to figure out that where could be the issue. I mean, it could be an issue with the storage, or it could be an issue with the network. That all visibility we bring it to the table, and then it helps us to reduce the downtime, and it helps to do the SLAs also. And the fourth and very important thing is the compliance. I think where you would basically, I think there are a lot of compliances we follow in India, like ISO compliances which we follow. There are multiple other compliances, obviously not from the government industry, but PCI DSS and HIPAA, something like that. And also we can create some custom compliance. Now these compliance helps us to identify if there are gaps based on these compliances in the environment, in the infrastructures, and we can fill that gaps by providing some remediations for that. And this is the way we basically give you a self-driving operations in totality. Now, I want to talk about the end-to-end visibility. When I was talking about the operation part of it, I think we were talking how we can see in infrastructures. But I want to give an example of it. Like many times what happens is that since these all environment which consist of a multiple constructs, and there is in a database which is connected to a particular application. Now, in that particular database, there are multiple instances, which is offering that service. There is an issue with that particular instance. Because of that reason, somebody has wrote a query which is causing a performance issue in the database. Now, these things which will not be visible to you until and unless there is a database guy comes out and then says there is an issue in databases. Because of that reason, application is facing a problem. Now, in these scenarios, how do you bring in a collaborative management? Whether the issue could be with the hardware, whether the issue could be with the storage disk, whether the issue could be with the network which is serving all the IOPS right now. How do you basically have an end-to-end mapping? How do you have a visibility in the complete data centers? So that is what very important perspective here. And we will see in the demo part of it, how do we identify the issues, and then we resolve the issues faster, and then obviously do a faster resolution of the problems. The other thing which I want to talk about is the log insight. I think this is again very important perspective, where there are a lot of components in the data center which we see. I mean, as I said, and as I've been repeatedly saying that you have a network, storage, compute, but beyond that you have a lot of services, Active Directory, you've got some applications which all are throwing some logs. Today these all logs stored as individual places, and they become meaningless because we were not able to do correlations with multiple aspects. So this is where the log insight kind of tool, which is giving a Google search kind of engine, and help you to correlate the issues and concerns across all the log sources which we are hearing, which we are seeing here right now. And basically on that basis, it can analyze the problem is at that particular specific place, and then we identify that. And we can obviously go back in the past also, we can obviously go back and see in that particular timestamp, where is the issue happened, where is the concern happened, and which all the component it has occurred, and we can try to resolve. So it's a very key essential aspect of troubleshooting the environment, collecting the log and analyzing them in an automated way. Yeah, so let me move now to the operation part of it. And I think I was talking about that initially also, and I told that the product like in a salt stack config which we have got it, when you have an environment such like a 10,000, 15,000 VMs, and there are requirement of repeatable jobs, like as I said, you want to make some changes into all the applications which is running right now. You want to make some immediate changes in configurations. How do you do that? So the manual process just takes longer time. With this tool, we can create and build and schedule repeatable jobs which can do self-service automations. And this could be 100 and thousands of systems, and it can do it very fast with that. So in an environment like which is in a hyperscale environment, we can create such kind of automation jobs. Okay, the next segment is more about the patch management. In these workloads, when you have you can make changes to the configurations of the applications or the operating systems. But at the same time, if I given a functionality where you can also patch these operating systems and the applications, because there are a lot of vulnerabilities which keeps on coming in the environment, and which becomes a concern from a security perspective. So how do you do that again in a similar fashion when you have a 10,000 plus of VMs or 1,000 plus of VMs. What we do is that we also align ourselves with a certified CIS and DISA scan engines, which keeps on giving you what is the new vulnerability which is coming up. Against that, we go and scan your environment, and once we identify that these are the vulnerabilities available in environment, we go and we remediate them. And these can be put it as a part of a pre-built automation also. So this is where it becomes a very easy job for an IT admin team or IT infrastructure team to handle the config part and the patch management part seamlessly in an automated way. The last thing which I want to talk about it here before I hand it over to Amit is the SaaS perspective. What we have seen is that and you would see a lot of technology companies today is bringing all this transformation in a function, like we are providing them as a SaaS functions. The way you today consume your LinkedIn, the way you consume today your Facebook, everything is a services. You just go and you just browse it and you start consuming these services. Similarly, what we are doing is that these all the product which I was talking about today are all available in India in our cloud as a services. Now your data will be sitting in your data centers, but these all management component which is going to manage your this infrastructures, which will be sitting in our cloud in India. The couple of benefits which happens here is that the deployment part of it, when you procure any product, you have to deploy that in your environment, in your data centers, and then somebody has to manage it. The life cycle management of the particular product, like whenever the new version comes, whenever there's a new upgrade comes, somebody has to ensure that this is upgraded. Now when we go in a services model, and obviously no one would have come and asked you that you have to upgrade your LinkedIn or you have to change this configuration in LinkedIn. Everything is up and running by LinkedIn team. Similarly for the Facebook or Twitter. So in similar line, you would see our services today are provided in the same fashion and can be consumed as the way you want. Now the good part is that many of our customers in government segment also says that okay, they still wants to have an on-premises deployment of such things, and in the future you might look for consuming them as a services. So these licenses are interchangeable. These are universal licenses. They provide such kind of flexibility. You today use as on premises, and tomorrow if you want to move to as a services part of it, you can consume that also. So, and along with that, there are multiple other services. When you use it from a services perspective, you get it onboarded. Like Skyline is a tool which we provide to manage your environment and infrastructures from a VMware perspective as a proactively. So if there is any concerns and issues comes, proactively teams reaches out to the admin team and ask them to resolve the issues or help them to resolve the issues. Yep. So I think with that, I would now move into the next half part of it, where Amit will evangelize us to show the demos of the product which I was talking about it. In case if you have any questions and queries, please drop that message on the query and questions tab. I'll stop sharing right now, Amit.
Thank you so much, Vivek Sharma ji, to after your presentation was great, and we have also received quite a few questions. And in that occasion, I would also like to welcome Mr. Amit Kumar, who is our Senior Systems Engineer, Cloud Management, VMware. Welcome, Amit ji. If you can just take a few questions before we hand over the presentation to Amit Kumar ji. How far has the digital infrastructure in the country grown to give a boost to the Digital India mission? This question is coming from Mr. Lalit Kumar.
I think the digital infrastructure, if you talk about it, I think Lalit thank you for the question, first of all. If you would see everywhere today, whenever we are, VMware has been participating, every state, every cities, like we were talking about the safe cities, the smart cities, I think infrastructure has been improved over there. I think the first thing which is required is the internet, and I think the multiple initiatives is being done by the government of India. I think this, under the Digital India perspectives, providing a broadband and internet connectivity to the each rural places. I think because of that reason, I think these initiatives, such like that, which I was talking about, the safe cities, smart cities, are probably possible right now. And when we have these basic infrastructures available, I think with the technology like a VMware which provides, we can create and we can help the workloads to be put into our environment and then obviously run 24/7. So something like that which is happening right now in India. So I think this is now moving in this the way it is aligning with the mission which we heard from from Dr. Ashish also, and from Digital India Ministry. The other question, which is the one, Pooja?
It's coming from Mr. Sujit Kumar Gupta. Like, what measures can be taken to take the benefits of technology from the block level to the district level?
I think this is again, so I think from a VMware as a partner, from a private sector partner, we are working proactively with all the agencies. We are working with all the government bodies. I think if I would talk about from a central, from a state perspective, and anything like from a POC perspective, we are participating with all of them whenever there is a requirement comes. Align with them the technology which can help them to build these solutions, which we are talking about it right now from the block level to the district level. I think, and eventually, I think we have seen such things happening. As I was saying in the first question, I think which is Lalit Kumar, more or less, what is happening is that as a private body, we can fall into in a certain areas like helping with the data centers to empower, and that is where we are working with every state and every government agencies right now.
Correct.
Yep.
And we would also, if you can please address the last question from Mr. Bharat Singh, as we can see it on the screen, that how can security issues be addressed while using cloud? If you could elaborate a bit on this.
Yeah, I think so. This is again. What happened is that there are two type of, and I was showing you that there are multiple type of clouds which are using it right now. When if I put it as a context to the only the private cloud, and in the private cloud, when we talk about security perspectives, so when we build the infrastructures, and in my discussion also when I was saying we have a software defined data centers which basically constructs of your compute storage and network. In that process, we basically keep security in our mind. We have a multiple perspectives like micro segmentations, which means every workload which will have its own firewall. So, and these firewalls are not OS imbibed firewall. These are basically in a hypervisor imbibed firewall, which is more secure than any OS firewalls. And top of that, we have got multiple other things like you see that IDS, IPS, like components which can be resided into your external firewalls, and helping the any data, any traffic which is coming from outside into the network is scanned and also checked if there is a vulnerabilities and if there are concerns with that, and then don't allow and reject that kind of packets, something like that, which you can do it, or limit the traffic to the only that particular point. So there are multiple perspectives which we do it. In a public cloud, we also have some solutions which basically goes and keep on doing in a scanning of your public cloud environment, and then looks into the all the misconfigurations done by the individuals like IT teams or maybe the users who uses them, and then identify these are the misconfiguration can cause certain issues in terms of the privileges which we give it. You give us some privilege to particular some objects which is available to everyone, so that can be highlighted to the team, and then ask them to revoke the permissions and access, something like that, which we can do it here.
Well, thank you so much for answering these questions. And as we move forward, we would like Mr. Amit Kumar to take over the presentation now. And please, if you can go ahead with it.
Sure, thanks. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, you're audible.
And Pooja, can you also confirm till how much time it's left for this session so that I can modify my demo part in those minutes? I believe it's 15 minutes. So now from here?
Yes, we have time. Yes, still
Oh,
20, 15, 20 minutes is there.
20 minutes
So
is there. So then it's good. Yep. So great, and good afternoon, everyone. So I hope you guys are not sleeping. It's always we should avoid after lunch sessions. So, but I'll make sure that in next 20 minutes or so, you'll be amazed to see the journey of multi-cloud, how you would be able to achieve, and I'll make you to a drive where you can see everything on your screen, how the multi-cloud setup looks like. So. With that, hi, I'm Amit Kumar, Senior Solution Architect at VMware. I help government customers to move from a legacy ID setup to a modern hybrid cloud-based setup. So in next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to cover a self-service portal where you can see your end users can go and request services. So before I jump into the demo, I'll be moving my face to my another screen where my demo is going to be run. So let me share my screen and it should be good. I hope we are able to see the screen. Great. So this is my demo environment where I have multiple windows open for my self-service portal, my cloud architect space, my config management space, and I have my operation space. So let me introduce a couple of things. One, we uh, uh, um, we understood a couple of personas always integrate with our cloud management platform. Number one persona is the always your end users who always in demands, who need resources, who need services, who need infrastructure as a services, who need platform as a services, who need anything as a services. So they always in demands, and as an IT owner, we have to make sure that we provide them with a seamless approach and seamless experiences as well. And then second persona that I'm going to cover today is your architect, whose job is to make sure that policy as a code is configured properly, the network devices has been configured properly, and whatever you are providing your end user as in services configured properly in our infrastructure as a code, policy as a code, storage as a code, and anything as a code actually. And then third person I'm going to touch upon where application people needs to be really make sure that their pipeline is getting executed from one step to the last step in a process flow, and which we call a CI/CD pipeline. So the platform has an inbuilt capability to offer CI/CD pipeline as a services. And the last piece I'm going to cover the operations, where you will see how the operations guys whose job is to make sure the lights are green, and whenever there is a red light, it has to come back to the green as soon as possible to save the revenue loss of your organization. So I'll start from first persona. The first personas is your end users, and think about end users. He know nothing about the resources. He will land up to this page, and this page will show them all the tiles are available about there based on their identity and access management. So there could be a one users who is able to only see one tile or two tile or three tile, and there may be another user who can see all the tiles over there. So based on the user, based on your identity and access management, you give those users the tile access. So for example, I am an admin of this console. I'm able to see a lot more over there. So another important information is about your usage. So you can see your usage information as well. As an end users, I'm using 6 virtual machines, 12 CPU, 120 GB storage, and 24 GB memory of my environment. Now, let's see how user can request the resources. So it's like a similar kind of an experience that you face on your Mac store or your Apple store or your Android store. So you don't need to be worried what type of infrastructure at the back. You just what do? You use your services as a service. So for example, I'm going to have my one of my applications, which is multi machines on demand network with an external network. I'm going to request the things. The moment I press on the request side, is it's asking me a couple of questions, and this page is purely customizable, and you can ask a number of other questions, or you can just leave any other question as well. So let's say, for example, I am going to show the government demo, and I made the deployment name as in government demo, and then I say, okay, I'm fine with you being small and the node size is small, or I can choose medium here as well, and I click on submit. Now, this is the done, and your end user would be able to receive that application, the entire two-tier architecture application as a services. Now, he don't need to mention, I need a load balancer, blah, 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 other things, what type of storage, because your architect has already done that configuration for you. And you are just reusing whatever your architect has configured. And that makes your end user's life an easy. Not just this, you can also enable multiple policies in this. So for example, you can have a bunch of policies with the platform. Whenever a user requested, these policies can be attached to that request. So for example, a user is requesting some services, what type of approvals you have to make sure that approvals are in place, to whom you should send an approval, and based on that approval, what type of actions you want to perform. Same goes with your day to action policy. So if you, for example, if your environment is up and running, now you also want to make sure that the user also gets some day to actions rights. For example, a particular user is having only access to reboot and restart your application, or maybe another type of user who is having us ability or having any access to create a snapshot of your virtual machine as well. And then third policy says a lease policy. So as an architect, as an admin, you can decide what are your resources and what are your deployments have a lease policy. So it could be 1 year, 1 day, 1 month, 10 years, or blah blah. And then you have a resource quota policies as well. Now you can have a business group, or you can have a project where you can decide the resource quota as well. So for example, as an architect, I have decided I have a 5 different group, and all these 5 different group would only be able to spin 100 GB of memory and 100 CPUs from my infrastructure. So that kind of a quota policy you can set it up. Based on that quota consumptions, you will receive some email that you are exhausted with your quota, or you are not exhausted with your quota, or you are under the limit. Or you can set these approval policies and quota policies together, saying that if the request isn't within the quota, the request get automatically approved. If the request is going beyond the quota, then approvals are required, and any other logics you can also mention. Okay, so let's see where my request gone. So my request is here, and I auto approved this. Here you look like. So this is my demo, request, and it says creation in progress. When I have requested, what I have requested, what are the history, who has requested what, who has approved it, what type of network is getting created. So you can, as an end users, every information. Even you can see what you have inserted in the form, which was opened up when you pressed on the request button. Now, as in topology diagram, you also be able to see what is going to be provision in my environment. So by this diagram, you can clearly see what is going to provision. I'm going to have a 2 different network, 1, 2, and I'm going to have a cloud load balancers, MySQL databases, web app servers, and there are some security groups as well. When I click on our individual resources, my information is also getting updated here. Like you see the IP address of my virtual machines, which vCenter server, what compute host, what storage, what network devices, what are my cloud config informations, and this cloud config information decide what type of execution happen as in cloud init when the resource is getting executed. So within the 2 minutes, I think it's within the 2 minutes, I was able to deploy entire my 2-tier architecture, which was decided and was fixed and secured by my architect as an end users. Now I receive an email saying that your government demo deployment is ready to use. Go ahead with these information and use it. That's the best part about it. Within the 2 minutes, I am able to get it. And I've seen customer for this kind of a process, they take 7 days, 8 days of a process where they have to follow each and everything from one stage to another stage. So we have cut down those customers from 7 days to 2 minutes, and that's the power this vRealize platform brings for the end users. Now, changing some gears here. Let me see. Let me show you what you can achieve as an architect. So you might be surprising, Amit. Okay, as an end user, I'm having very nice things. I'm able to request it with all the governance policies and all. But how easy or how difficult it is to build this kind of an architecture? Okay, let me first show you what type of architecture and how it's look like. So this was, remember, I have chosen this as a catalog item, and this is my designer page. So I'm going to explain left hand side a little bit maybe later, but I just want to show you this one. So you have similar kind of an architecture which you are able to see in the topology diagram. On the right hand side, you have a 131 line of a code, which is actually comprising this overall architecture. And it has a YAML code, and it's acceptable across all the cloud provider. This is the best part of vRealize automations, that you can bring a code which is a cloud agnostic code, and you can use it across all your public clouds, across all your private clouds. So if I have to take an example, the same line of a code will work on AWS, on Azure, on vCenter, on vSphere, on your Hyper-V, or any other hypervisors you can have it. So that's the power it brings. So you don't need to write a 5 different code for 5 different clouds. That's the power. Now, how easy is to create this one? Let me just open a blank canvas, put a government demo, and say, this is my project, let's create it. Now I've got a blank canvas where I can paint my imagination as an architect, which I have. So I'm going to have a network, which was one of my network, okay? And I'm going to add one of my network. Some of you might have noticed it was a blank earlier. Now the 12 line of a code is automatically getting written without even I touch my keyboard. Now I've got my two network. I'll put my load balancer and I attach my load balancer to this network. And I say, I also need a machine, which is a part of this network and which is part of this internal network. Now I'll add another my virtual machine, which could be my web virtual machine. And that machine could be part of my another network. And that should not be part of load balancer, but that should be part of my another application servers. So you can see there is a cloud load balancer, and there is I able to put another virtual machine which I can also attach to this my load balancer. Now you might have surprised the 47 line of a code is just getting written in how much minute I have to, like within the 30 seconds or of 40 seconds. Now it's also show you some errors, like you can select some errors here and you can select this one, you can select this one, and you would also be able to resolve the error. Even I haven't touched my keyboard yet, so that's the very interesting part about vRealize automation. So while I was showing you this up, is that it's not really difficult to prepare an infrastructure, publish this as a code to your end user. It's super easy, and we support low code infrastructure as a code where you don't need to write anything, automatically everything gets written. In fact, even the properties of a particular services also, you don't need to write it as a services. For example, like I have selected as in from the mouse, then you can also have some inputs, just create inputs and the automatically code get also written around that. So that's it's really super easy, and you can just test it out and you would be able to get it your infrastructure as a code within the minutes, within the couple of minutes, by having a secure way of doing this and having a fastest way of building your infrastructure as a code. I remember my old days when I used to write this without vRealize automation. Then I took at least this 47 line of a code. I usually take 8 hours to write this up because this is intent based. This requires a comma. This requires a lot of keyboard inputs. And I took 8 hours to write this code, and then again 8 hours to test this code, and again 8 hours to secure this code. And then I was not able to put everything because I was not able to see everything for my own eyes, and then I was not able to drag and drop those things. Now the second part I want to show you this is that what type of resources this canvas support. Look at this left hand side. I would be able to say almost everything. Like you see, this cloud agnostic, these are the resources which if you drag and drop here, it will work for all the clouds. If you want to be a very specific to a cloud like Kubernetes, you can have a Kubernetes cluster also drag and drop here, and then your entire Kubernetes as a cluster as a code getting written over here. Now you have a very specific to vSphere machine disk network. Now you also have NSX resources. You also have a salt stack config. You have also have an AWS as a native resources. You also have Azure as a native resources. You also have a Ansible as a resources, and Puppet, GCP, Microsoft Azure, and whatnot, and even including the Terraform as a Terraform, you'd be able to import it. So this makes this platform as really open to integrate. Whatever the platform you are already using as an open source, or whatever you are using as an enterprise, please feel free to integrate with the vRealize automations, and you would be able to get a combined story about around that. Now, moving on a little bit more, and then I'll show you the capability of the platform is that with this one. So now you see, I can include, like I mentioned, AWS accounts, Google accounts, Microsoft Azure, NSXT, NSXV, even I can have our hypervisor friend also listed here. And then you can have a vCenter server, vCloud Director, and whatnot. And then I also want to show you some bit of interesting information around the GitHub, Puppet, IPAM, SaltStack, SDDC Manager, Ansible, Bitbucket, whatnot you would be able to integrate with the vRealize automations. You might be asking a question, Amit, why I need to integrate these things? I'm going to say one thing. If you have an infrastructure as a code where you are spinning a resources like virtual machine, network, and disk, What if I'll give you an ability to integrate your config management pieces as well? So for example, when you are spinning a resources, not you are just spinning a resources, you are also configuring your application, you're also configuring your AD, you're also configuring your developer portal or developer task, which they want to perform in a CI/CD pipeline. And that's the my next part of the demo. You can also have a well integrated and well machined oiled your integrated pipeline of your environment into the visualized automations. Now you can have your visualized automations code, your whatever the code you have built as an infrastructure as a code by drag and drop, and you can put into the pipeline and then have some kind of an other inputs like SSH, user operations, or maybe some any other options that you can put it like in the parallel task and parallel sequential task. Now what also you can do is the same thing, the CI, condition, pipeline, Kubernetes, Jenkins, REST, poll, SSH, PowerShell, all those actions you can have it by drag and drop again. Like I mentioned, so like I dragged it, this PowerShell task, you configure this PowerShell task, write a script, and then you'd be able to execute it when you are going to clean up this demo. So that kind of a pipeline you can execute it, and the same way you would be able to execute this in a fashion where everything getting returned. So for example, I was able to get this one as an build some Dockers here, build DB Docker here, build front end Docker here, and then approve the deployments. And I was deleting some namespace. So I was able to create the namespace in my Kubernetes environment, deploy DB as a service, cache as a services, and then expose the services into my Kubernetes environment, and then deploy the front end, and then expose the front end. So this becomes really easy for your DevOps guy to stitch all your infrastructure as a code, policy as a code, and of course all the security component as a code in the between of your pipeline, and then deliver a well configured, well secured, and well architected applications to your end users. And you can actually give it as a service to your end user. That's really interesting when you have to do it in actions. Now I'll move it. If there is anything which you really don't have out of the box with the visualized automations, then you have an orchestrator platform right there, inbuilt platform, which you can have an access as a custom workflow. So you can pick up your developer and say, developer, I want to have something automated with your code, and that code you can bring it here in the orchestrator and then run as a workflow, maybe on a pre-deployment, post deployment, or maybe the during deployment you want to get it executed, and you can achieve anything as a services from this facility. Now uh, I am looking at my clock, and seems like I have limited time. Like I need to quickly jump on to my another set of demo and just show you up. Another important one is your config management. Now, in this config management, you would be able to execute your complex application configurations, OS configurations by using couple of clicks. Let me just show that you. If I have to install a Mozilla Firefox in my thousands of virtual machines, how I would be able to do it. So these are my two virtual machines where I have already have a Firefox. So for example, I have to uninstall this. What I have to do, I'll just took one example. It could be anything as a example here in this one. What I'll do is I'll say Windows and say remove packages. I'll just run job, run now, and my job is done. These two machines, which this has been configured as a as a Windows minion, will automatically get removed this Firefox servers from here. So soon you would be able to not like this within the 3-4 seconds. My this salt stack config was able to remove the application component, which was Python and Firefox, from these two virtual machines directly. Imagine if you have thousands of servers in your environment, Linux, Windows, Macs, and all others one, which you want to do some kind of a configurations management, you would be able to do it with a couple of clicks. Not just this one, you also be able to configure some benchmarks related to your CI's Microsoft Windows Server, CI's or Ubuntu Linux, and you would be able to run your policies against your Windows, Linux, or system or something, and you would be able to see who are the compliants, who are not compliant, there is any error, and all that. The best part about the salt stack config is the fastest remediations. So like I've shown you, you would be able to remove or add any services inside the environment by just a couple of clicks, and that's the best thing you can bring it up. Same goes with the vulnerability. If you got a CIS, if you got any CVE coming from a Windows or Linux Windows, you'd be able to import it quickly, and then you would be able to remediate them against based on your choice. So if you have 1,000 servers and you want to apply a KB article which is coming from a Microsoft, which you can see over the screen like 403720, you'd be able to just click remediate, and that's 2 clicks, and the remediation can be happen inside your environment. This everything till now you see in last 30 minutes, it's a one package. It's a one realize automations which you can execute it. So now you hear the story start from application birth and ending with applications lifecycle, maybe the remediation of their issues, having all the day to actions related to your applications. Now I'll change couple of window, and then I'll show you how operations can be happens like day to operations, like I mentioned, the information about your end users who are information about your um, operations guys who are responsible to make sure the lights are green. So like you can see, you can right size it here, you can reclaim it here, you can have assess your cost, you would be able to see the faster troubleshoot your issues from the workbench, and you would be able to see the compliances. With the interest of time, I'm going to pick up the compliance piece from the operation and then show you. You can see there's a, I have picked up ISO security standards. This is one of your questions which somebody has raised from the audience, that how you can make sure that cloud are secured. Like Vivek has mentioned, this is one of the part you can make sure that you are able to scan your infrastructure against the ISO, against the FISMA, DISA, um, uh, you know, other security standards, and you would be able to get it a compliance reports. Not just compliance reports, you are also be able to get it who is violating policies, what is the policy has getting violated, what is the fix around that. So we are not leaving somewhere in the behind that and saying this is a problem, go ahead and solve this, and your admin team has to Google it how to solve it or something. We are right there in the system providing you the recommendations on your solving your issues as well. If this is VMware related, then we'll be able to provide a KB article here as a link to you, so that your admin team don't need to do a Google or a GSS ticket to find out a KB article. Right in front of your portal, you'd be able to see the KB article. You go there, read the instruction, perform the instruction, and you'd be able to solve the problem related to security, related to all these standards and alerts that you have. Any questions that we have? I know we are running short of time, so I can take it up a couple of questions here in this one. Vik, do you have
Yeah,
any questions, or still I
yeah.
have a couple of minutes to
Right.
pick it up?
I have, I think, a couple of questions are there.
Okay.
I'll take it up on the first one. I think I heard from Pradeep Sharma. I think it is more about the training initiatives taken by the VMware. Yes, sir. I think that the session today, which you see, is also one of the initiatives which we take it to our customers, where we want to give them some sort of enablement with our product and perspectives. Beyond that, I have shared a couple of links, and I think Pooja would be able to share with all of you. There are a couple of hands-on lab which VMware provides to our customers, where multiple different products of ours is available, and also the solution is available to consume and then to use it. So before you procure anything like that, you can go and in the hands lab, where there is a complete description is given. How do you want to use this particular technology? Everything is given. And similar like that, the VMware TV is there, which is providing a lot of training materials, and such kind of events which you're seeing here are also recorded and provided there. So there are multiple ways we can do it this, sir. Second thing, I think I heard from Mr. Narendra Kumar Lodha. I think this is more about the skills which challenges which we face today in the cloud technology with respect to the government sectors. I think, sir, more or less, I think Amit and I would say that we have seen the skills has been upgraded so far. We have been talking to state governments, we are talking to the central government, and even we go and talk to a lot of PSUs also. And there are things which are changing now. I mean, people are gearing up that, and at the same time, if you would say that the ecosystems, the cloud ecosystems, and then other OEMs also bringing some sort of a learning methodology for our government customers. So this is changing, yes, but there are places where we see challenges, and I think the materials which I was talking about it, the sessions like this, helps our government teams also and customers also to empower them faster.
I
And
would like to add one thing, Vivek, here is that Lodha sir has asked about the skill set. Um, our CMP platform, like Vivek has just talked about, end-to-end cloud management platform. And we support all the cloud vendors. And you have seen on the screen as well that we support almost all the endpoints that today your team might have to manage it. If your team is skilled on Viralize component, that they don't need to get it extra skills on the other public cloud providers. For example, like they don't have to really, of course, they need to understand how EC2 and virtual machine in Azure works, but they don't really need to have a very detailed knowledge around those public clouds endpoints. But they can use it. They can keep focusing on the Viralize operations on the VMware technologies, and they can leverage the business demands of those public cloud providers or a private cloud provider. So essentially on the skill set, you need one set of people who would be able to do all your stuff around AWS Azure, AWS Azure, GCP, and other private cloud vendors as well.
Okay. I think I've seen a couple of questions which is like more or less relevant to each other. Like Avinash Agarwalji and Soumya Agarwal has asked about the emerging technology strengthening the businesses vision of a government, which all are technology which is helping our governments to transform. I think if you look at it, as we were talking about today, I mean the multi-cloud perspective which we talk about, how to build in a private cloud today. Even you heard from Dr. Ashish, I think he was talking about a lot of initiatives from a smart city perspective, from a paperless perspectives. And when I was showing my slide where government in digital initiatives, which you saw, e-sign, DigiLocker, and all such services, and then the initiatives, which I was talking about, the e-panchayat and e-health, all systems require a robust infrastructure. I think so. What we are doing it so far, and you name it, I think any states today, they have consumed our solutions for building their private cloud. Because first thing is that before you bring any services, before you launch any services, you need to have an infrastructure, correct, which can basically host such kind of applications into 24/7 environment. And the capabilities, I think what Amit was talking about it, how easy it is to manage the infrastructures so that you can keep that environment run for 24/7. And so these are the things which we have done it across this multiple government segments, and they are leveraging this thing. So the cloud is one emerging technology which we are hearing it, and more or less I think as you heard that NIC, the Meghras, the biggest cloud is already in a VMware platform. Similar like that, most of the smart cities, most of the safe cities are also developed on the VMware solutions.
Yep.
And we have, how can cloud technology be used to build resilience in public sector enterprise? I think we have answered that already. How do we enable right balance and strategy while using a cloud? I think this is a very right question. I think, and we have seen this with respect to a commercial or an enterprise segment, it would be in a different answer. From a government perspective, it is in a different obviously answer. What we need in the government is like, as you heard about it, there are a lot of initiatives, even in the ministries has done it. We are also now, the ministry is also now looking for building a data centers in India. You must have heard about it that, the government is launched to build a large data centers and also providing a lot of benefits to them. And there are a lot of Indian companies are also participating into that. The first perspective is that, enabling the infrastructures, when you want to have all such things like the cloud we are talking about here, first you need to ensure that you have an infrastructure to build that cloud, I think. And in similar line, these all agencies, they're all private organizations are now participating to build that infrastructure first, and then moving towards to the building that private cloud for them, and then offering that kind of private cloud to the end ministries, like I just talk about the state bodies or the central bodies, and then on top of that, these bodies will host their applications, which eventually will serve our citizens of India. So more or less, I think I would say again, from a perspective of government, I think we have seen the private cloud is a choice of options which we have seen. Rarely we see the government embodies uses a public cloud, but the good part is that with the solution which Amit and we were talking about it, the solution which we discussed can be scattered across your multi-cloud strategy, where we can bring it your any public cloud, choice of public cloud, and you can have your private cloud and have your policies and governance and provisioning across all of them seamlessly. I think we have answered any more questions, Pooja. We have it right now, considering the time which we have.
We had a question from, I think you answer the last question from Mr. Prabir Kumar Gangopathai, who has asked that how do you enable right balance in strategy while using cloud?
Yeah, I think this is what I was also saying that I was taking the same thing. In the government perspective would be the different in the corporate would be different perspective. Today, what we are seeing across the government, and whatever you talked about it, the slide which I was showing you that what are the private cloud, what are the customers like NIC, the state governments has empowered using VMware step solutions. So this is a momentum we are seeing it. Every other government agency is looking into build their private cloud right now. And as I was saying, that there's an initiative happening is to create a large data centers in India. I think when that happens, then you would have a more GCC coming into the picture. Government community cloud will come into the picture. So this is a tool I see more in terms of a government perspective.
Correct. So we would, as we conclude our session today at the Public Sector Industry Day, I would like to give my heartfelt thanks to Mr. Vivek Sharma and Mr. Amit Kumar. So if you, at our conclusion, if you would like to add something to for our viewers today and conclude the session, it will be really great.
Thank you. I think the first and most important part of it, I think, appreciate all of your times. And I think what we try to make you ensure that the technology which is provided by VMware today, it is a proven technology, not only across the globe. I think we have seen every other country in the but with the kind of features, functionalities, the kind of governance, the policies, and the control which VMware has been providing. And I would be very proud to say that I think the 80% of the virtualization environment and the private cloud environment is being built by the VMware. I think that's a very most important part of it. And that eventually you want to make sure that your life is easy as an admin or as a data center head. What do you want is that the tool which Amit was showcasing to you, how easy it is from the starting your applications by provisioning it, and then afterwards making sure that the lifecycle management of the application is also done. And in totality of all of these things, we also have captured the security part of it. I think a lot of questions came in security. How do you ensure the security? And that is also captured. One more among the thing which I want to talk about. This is the one particular product of VMware which we are talking here right now. When we bring all other products of VMware, end-to-end security, end-to-end provisioning, and even in the end user also we can secure the things. So in totality, if you talk about the complete VMware portfolio, that is where the vision which we have got it, in similar lines. So that's it, I think, from my side. And Amit, if you want to add anything, please go ahead.
No, I'm good. I think you have covered everything. So thank you so much, guys, for joining.
Yeah,
thank you so much with us today for the wonderful presentation and the wonderful session today, along with our chief guest as well. As we take a leave now, thank you very much for the session today. Thank you.
Thank you, Pooja.
Thank you. Good day. Bye.